Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I hope that you all are doing well, and I'm very glad that you all are back into the campus and classes have been started physically, so that is a good sign. Unfortunately, I cannot go physical because of the instruction of the institute, but I will keep connect with you on online studies. I'm here your teacher Asim and with a new lecture. This is a 12th one and that is a crucial one too. So let's see how it goes. And today's topic is about American English language. There are various things that we are going to study today in this lecture, like and how and when the beginning of American English, and next is a comparison between British and American English. And the next one is pronunciation. There is a difference between British and American pronunciation. And next is spelling and punctuation, simplification, and next is regularization and derivational uniformity, individual words difference in spelling, grammar, and noun, the adverb, Oxford order, Lexis. These are the topics and points that we are going to discuss today. This is our content for today's lecture. There are a few things more as well: the American dialects, the Eastern New England, the New York City, North Midland, South Midland, Southern Journal America. These are the things that we are going to study today. The next original 13 colonies. There were 13 colonies of America actually. The New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. These are the American colonies, 13 in numbers. The remarkable story of how English spread within predominantly English-speaking societies like the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand is not unique. It is processed in language that is old as Greek and Chinese. The emergence of English as a global phenomenon as either a first and recently inspired the idea that we should talk not of English but of many Englishes. So the present flex of English is part of a process that goes back to Shakespeare and beyond. So the American Revolution is regarded as the turning point in establishing this new kind of English, that American English, due to the rebels who wanted to announce their separation from the whole country, their longings and nationality of their own, lead to the fact that there is 1782 the citizens of the new republic were proudly Christian Americans, and in 1802 the United States Congress recorded the first use of the phrase the American language. There is a little introduction of American language, and these are the colonies, and I've told you that how and when the English of America has started. The next is periods of American English. So obviously the colonial period first of all started from 1607 to 1776, and after that the national period 1776 to 1898, and the next one is the international period from 1898 to till now today. So the underline the importance of Shakespeare according to the upcoming of American English, one has to quote that it was the Elizabethan English that was soon to be taken in ship after ship across the Atlantic to the New World as a language of unified nation, due to the fact that both writing and speech became standardized, and first throughout the British Isles under the Jacobins, and with regard to the first Britons. who reached the New World with focus led to the London. So in the big city with the islands, greatest part of the hub of in 1605, the time the new King James I reigned, two companies, characterized by rival merchants, set out from London and Plymouth to fulfill their dreams of influence and a new life. Three ships of the London Company set sail in 1606 in pass by the Azores and the Canary Island of the southern route. They planned to head north after cruising in the West Indies to settle somewhere north of the Spanish in Florida and south of the French in Canada. In April 1607, they sailed into Shakespeare Bay. There they got stuck in the swell of swamps, and nearly a month later, the English language took root in the New World. And the second English colony was Bermuda, which was established by the shipload of settlers in 1612, together with three survivors of sea venture that was wrecked on the island east of South Carolina in 1609. The men and women from the middle and lower orders of East Anglia, a town and villages, who crossed the Atlantic to better themselves, where they find Puritans, whose story now becomes the story of American English. These are the things that are quite important and relevant to this topic actually. That's why I'm explaining it again and again. So, what was the colonial period? Divergent features, leveled inside and single colony. The barrier of the Atlantic began the process of divergence of American from British usage almost immediately. These are the colonial periods, divergent features, leveled inside the single colony. Because the Puritan, it is a period of Puritans' intentions to immigrate was a double-edged sword. On the one hand, their motives were an idealistic self-interested and religious ambitions to better themselves. On the other hand, there were the minority of the pilgrimage fathers who wanted to establish a kingdom of God according to their religion. And on 16 September 1620, the Mayflower set sail from Plymouth. Most of the travelers came from East Anglia, but there were also 30 different communities from all over England, among them traveling 65 days across the Atlantic. So English was the kind of language melting pot in which the religion differences began to intermingle. The speech situation should not have been the last of this kind, because in the following 200 ships crossing the Atlantic and situation repeated, those people settled along with Atlantic seaboard, covered a long narrow strip of land extending from Maine to Georgia. This area is divided into three sections: New England, the Middle Atlantic State, and the South Atlantic State. This was the colonial period. Even though the French were not less important for the history of the American language than the English settlers, they were explorers, trappers, traders, and missionaries who settled in the north and west and held the strategic points along the two great American rivers, the St. Lawrence and the Mississippi. One of the most sophisticated cities in the New World was French New Orleans, capital to the state of Louisiana, named after Louis XI in 1682. The Dutch settled east and built a new Amsterdam, which was renamed New York because in 1664 British settlers seized that town and forced the Dutch to exchange the name, which was perhaps one of the worst trade-offs in history. The Germans with religious precaution at home due to their failure revolution in 1848. Many of the later settled in certain central cities such as Cincinnati, Milwaukee, and St. Louis or become farmers in their Middle West. The Irish have been looking hopefully to the New World, and thus they were among the first to migrate. In 1588, the first Irish settlement on the island, Newfoundland, looked a place due to seasonal influence. Fishermen went to the island the summer cold fishing seasons. So these are the colonial period from 1607 to 1777. After that, the national period. The linguistically, this period faced two related challenges: the evolution and decline of the separate standard English for the USA. The extensions of that standard over the whole nation as it expanded westward. This is the national period where at the beginning of the 17th century the slave ship and people from West Africa began crossing the Atlantic to the West Indies, the port of Georgia and South Carolina, even the New York was Massachusetts. There were a handful of those slaves in 1619, half a million, 1772, and 4 million. When the Civil War began, the slave trade continued until the mid 19th century. So between 1880 to 1910, who mainly ended up to the lower east side of New York City. Atlantic's more than 5 million between 1865 to 1820, who on the other hand settled in the great cities of the Northeast, who immigrated due to different motives and the United States. But as we all know, the English were not the first to get in contact with the New World America. It was a Spanish man from Geneva called Cristoforo Colombo, who actually whom we will all more likely know the Christopher Columbus. In 1492, he sought out the westerly route to the East Indies and discovered new land, ancient of the which Columbus thought to be the Indies of searched for. These are the important events of that period. Next is international period from 1898 to up until now today. The USA played an increasing role in the world politics and economics with a sequent effect of AE usage. Spread of AE and American pop culture throughout the world. So in the end, that is where comparison starts between British and American. We have come to the present, some 3.5 centuries after the first English was spoken on the North American continent. During that time, English was born, shaping itself from the very speech of displaced Englishmen, Wiseman, Irish, and Scottish until it was obviously that most rapidly Bourgeois dialect of the most rapidly expanding language. British English is mother of her offspring. American English, the English language from the British Isles, came from the new continent, and even before it arrived on the coast, it began to intermingle. The language of Shakespeare got in contact with other varieties on its way to the New World soon, a kind of melting pot. Different languages join to the speech communication or broaden new language. Unconsciously, that goes throughout the saying noted above that the Irish, German, Jews, and American, these are the points that happen in that international period. And after that, due to the fact that immigrants soon begin to travel or move to merging the regional differences, तो फिर उन्होंने मूव करना शुरू कर दिया from different cities. On the next pages of the different will become obvious that not in the due of logical thought, but due to having an intense and look and certain linguist features concerning the differences between British English, American English, always referring to the standard variation and references accent, RP and General American. With regard to linguistic feature, the story dates back to the very first beginning to the American English. These are the changes that have taken place. And difference between American and English language that is actually I am discussing with you. And next big difference is pronunciation. In general, American speakers throughout the country differ concerning their pronunciation. Many speakers from the Middle West, for example, have a nasal twang. This has the effect that the voice sounds darker and tenser, and Southern speakers are known for their typical Southern drawl. British speakers, on the other hand, have a greater tension and lesser degree of lightning in stressed vowels and their disposal. In the following descriptions, the usual abbreviation for the British reference accent, that RP, and the American reference accent, Chimpo, will be the consonant of RP and the identical according the number of the varieties account same 24 phonemes with regard to the number. The vowel letter in the difference between the varieties, RP has 20, Genum 16. So next is in the following lines, the most obvious difference will be point out one of many notable differences in its realization in the two accents. Are building in diseaser Lipophone nickname. So this is the difference in accents. These are the major differences versus accent, spelling, vocabulary, grammar, prepositions, and tense. So obviously there is one more difference I would like to share with you is the stress pattern of RP and Genome. So the most obvious and nearly unique difference concern regard with the ARE, ERA, or ORA. In RP they are contain a single stress syllable which is the first or the second one of the word. A second syllable is frequently elided in Jam. The stress runs in the reverse direction. The stress is on the first syllable, and in the addition, secondary stress falls on the next two last syllables, abiding there. Disaster. And the intonation pattern of RP is often characterized as more varieties as of the genome as flatter with regard to the question, for example, the genome, and shows the following intonation while the RP used in the different fields. So these are actually the difference, and the other is the New England dialect and the Southern dialect and General American dialect. So there is a difference of dialect as well. And next is Americanism. What they are, why they emerging, and what we think about them. So what is Americanism? We will discuss on the next slide. That is a very interesting topic. What are Americanism? English words or phrase or a feature, grammar, spelling, and pronunciation that originated in the United States and or are used primarily by Americans. So ऐसे words, phrases और features grammar में spelling और pronunciation जो use की जाती है Americans जो करते हैं उसको Americanism कहते हैं. Why did they emerge? तो कैसे क्यों emerge हुए? Now Webster's dissertation on the English language stated that an American standard needed to be established and spelling reform, but not too radical, no great change would be made at once. That should be कहता है कि थोड़ी तब्दीली आनी चाहिए. Spelling और punctuation में भी differences पाए जाते हैं. Spelling and punctuation difference are much like the majority of the difference in pronunciation, not merely emphasized and unsystematic. They follow the certain patterns, including simplification, regularization, and derivational uniformity. I will only have a quick look on these sub-chapter. So next is simplification. Although the GNAM has a greater reputation for the simplification, this principle can even be found in RP, only in realize different things. So let's see how it. On the next, why did they emerge? The number 2 slide. It is continue the contemptuous dictionary of the Englishman. 1806 contained 28,000 words. Attack on Johnson's dictionary, e.g. as a different spelling and the pronunciation, e.g. for the actor and have no use but the flavor ideas. This is how you can see the difference between spelling as well. Actor have no u and but flavor does. So there is a big difference. And why did they emerge? And number 3, this topic is continued. Throughout America in the 19th century, thousands of new words were being coined, but the new words weren't reaching a wide public. बहुत सारे हजारों words जो है वो ऐड किए गए, लेकिन नए वर्ड जो है वो अपने उस मुकाम तक पहुंचे नहीं. So next is American vocabulary. In 19th, new vocabulary came from many sources, e.g. Spanish and Native American words. New vocabulary included cattle town, chef, dude, lasso, range, roundup, and six shooter. These are the American. And there are derivational for formality as well. In BRE, one writes defense, offense, pretense, but practice as a verb, while in America, one writes defense, offense, pretense, but practice. So on the other hand, it is the other way around. BRE writes analyze and paralyze, where ME writes analyze and paralyze. And the next is Webster's Blue-Backed Speller. So first published in 783, but had revisions, e.g. in 1804 and 1806. In 1804 version contained proposals, e.g. deleting U from the words ending in R, O, U, R, e.g. favor, deleting from words ending in IC, e.g. music, replacing rewrite and the greater replace CE with the SE, e.g. defense, और उसके बाद ड्रॉपिंग द फाइनल जो ई इसके एंड में आता था एग्जामिन किया गया डेफिनेट से ड्रॉपिंग साइलेंट लेटर, तो साइलेंट लेटर जो थे वो उनमें ख़त्म कर दिए गए. Example today one. So 24/7 instead of 24 hours 7 days a week. तो 24/7 जो थे उसको फिर 24 hours 7 days a week कहा जाता था. उससे पहले we are going to plane soon. IG setting off an aircraft. It is what it is. Transportation, why not just transport? And birthdays turning 21, 40, etc. Cotton, take out, why not take away? तो ये चीज़ें आनी चाहिए कि टेक आउट क्यों था और टेक अवे क्यों नहीं. उसके बाद ये चेंजेस डिफरेंटली उसमें आना स्टार्ट हुई. And the next example is my bad after you make a mistake. And math instead of maths. सही है, मैथ्स के बजाय क्या ना लगे रेगुलर इंस्टेड ऑफ मीडियम. रेगुलर पिज्जा कहने लगे मीडियम के बजाय. पीरियड इंस्टेड ऑफ फुल स्टॉप. सीजन फॉर अ टीवी सीरीज एंड इश्यूज इंस्टेड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम टर्न दैट ऑफ ऑलरेडी. सो ये स्पेलिंग चेंजेस में आएगा. एग्जाम्पल 3 टुडे कलर इंस्टेड ऑफ कलर. पहले कलर था तो फिर उसका स्पेलिंग बाद में चेंज CLUR हो गए. वाचिंग टाइम स्पेल चेकिंग ऑन द वर्ड. These are the changes that have been made. American taking over the British language, who decides what is good or correct English when the way is spoken different from the other countries. And next is obviously there is a difference of noun as well. Here it has been to the noted that there some words appear regularly in the singular in the tone, but in the plural of the other variety. और adverb में थोड़ी changes आई. And American with a greater tendency to use adjective rather than adverbs can be noticed. वो ज़्यादा adjective use करते थे. Word order जो था वो भी change हुआ. Difference between British. Will you give it me? For common, will you give it to me, or will you give me it? Is possible. ये भी changes है. Lexis उसमें फिर changes आए. Difference in lexis can occur due to different reasons that they not necessarily lead to the misunderstanding in the following lines. I will list example accordingly. So thank you very much, student, for your cooperation. You have always been a very good class. Thank you so much. That is it for today. Allah Hafiz.